When I was able to get back over to the front of my supply tent, I always thought this was so dehumanizing, for lack of a better term. There's a big pool of blood in the sand there in front of my supply tent. And the only thing you could do was kick dirt over it and go on.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a man's life laying there in that pool of blood. None of my blood, it was his.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that hit me right between the eyes. How fragile life is and how quickly it can be over.
Hello, viewers and listeners. Mike B here. Just want to give you a little bit of context for what you're about to see and listen to. This is a conversation that I had with Donald Stout. He wrote a book, a very successful book called "I'm Just a Supply Sergeant," and it was on the best-selling list for most of 2024. He is an amazing human being, as well as his wife Deb, and he happens to be a Vietnam veteran. And we got in touch through a mutual friend, James Gregory, who you might be familiar with. I've mentioned him in other videos. He's also an esteemed historian and author. And between January 25th and 28th of 2024, my friend slash producer of this podcast, Chris, flew down to Dallas and then spent the next couple days in Northeast Texas. Deb and Dawn offered to pick us up from the airport, so we didn't have to rent a car. They put us up in their home, beautiful property, and they fed us and treated us just like family, even though we were talking about some pretty intense things. And for that, I'm forever grateful for that. Now, he did write his book, which I highly suggest you buy and read. We covered some things that were in the book, and we covered some things that were not necessarily in the book. I just want to give a caveat that this conversation that we had ended up being several hours, so it's going to be segmented up. This is the first segment of that. My friend Chris and I had no idea what the hell we were doing. I was terrified. This is an idea that I had about 3 years ago, and my friend Chris pushed me to do this, and Don also said, yep, let's do this. So it happened. I was nervous. The camera's not the best. We're fixing that. But for our first time, we had a mobile podcast studio, and I think it went as well as it possibly could have, if not a lot better. But yeah, so the camera quality wasn't the best, but we're working on that technical stuff. Now, I have to warn you, there are some things that are talked about in this next several hours that aren't going to be things that you're necessarily comfortable with. There's a lot of talk about death, suicide, thoughts, physiological feelings at the time of something happening traumatic in your life, and just trauma in general outside of war. So this obviously is not going to be able to be monetized on YouTube. I've never planned on doing that. However, if you want to support future endeavors like this, of having one veteran talk to another veteran about just having a conversation, you can go to the Patreon. The link is in the description. But my goal was to have just a conversation with a fellow combat veteran about anything and everything. It's a free-flowing, free-form conversation. And for my first time, Don was probably one of the best guests I could possibly imagine, because he helped me through it. And I've got my confidence up now, because I think what we accomplished in these conversations are extremely helpful to people who feel alone. Links will be in the description for suicide hotlines, as many countries as we can possibly find. If you or a loved one or a friend is experiencing thoughts of that, you'll have the links in the description to give that number a call or get resources, because this is a raw conversation. It's not an interview. I didn't have many pointed questions. I had read his book, and we just talked. And this is how combat veterans from whatever era whatever war, whatever nationality, talk to each other. So, hope you enjoy. It's very heavy, but I also hope you really learn something from this. So, without further ado, I won't be doing this introduction on every video. It'll be a lot shorter, but I figured for the first segment, because I didn't know what the hell was going on, and you probably won't either. So, as far as the psychological impact that war has on people who are involved with it. So, here we go. But yeah.
Yeah, this is the diary.
Oh, that's the actual diary.
That's the actual diary.
And so this is the one that James.
That's the one that is in the book.
Yeah.
Concentrate and
Stout, Company A, 2nd Battalion, 22 infantry.
see, my handwriting is the best in the world. Sometimes
Yours is a lot better than mine, Don.
I can't even read it a lot of times.
Really?
Yeah, so I transcribed it several years ago so somebody could read it if they ever wanted to.
So.
But as things went along, I decided I better keep a diary, at least as long as I could live.
Where did you have this? Did you have it on your person, or did you put it someplace?
I had it, actually I had it under my bunk. I had a mattress with the steel frame with the spring, and I had a
Okay.
mattress like that in the back of my supply tent, and I kept it under that. And I all thought I was going to lose it that time the mortar round hit and tore my bed up, and I had to get another one.
It was different ink, different color ink.
Yep, whatever pen I had.
Whatever pen you had, and you can tell also like on a few of these, you're writing cursive and you're writing fast and you.
Yep, always.
Yep,
Yeah.
nice, and you can tell when you were writing fast, and you can tell when you were kind of like right here. It's a lot easier to.
I write like a doctor.
Oh shit! And then you get this. I just went from that to this.
Yeah.
This. Let me see. Okay, so when does this one
What's the
start?
date on it?
I'm looking. So it'll be April 13th. It rained again today, and very heavy at that. I'll never. Okay, you're right.
I told you.
I'll
That's why I
I'll
typed it.
never. Shit, yeah. They usually go away at the same time, yeah. So you got that pen, that's a very thick pen, and then now we're back to black ink, and then back to the blue pen, blue ink, and now we're on to, yeah, I love this because, and so, okay, so you kept it under your bunk.
Yeah, each day,
Yeah.
I said I was, I think I prefaced this by saying, I don't know what are the rules about keeping a diet, what you could do, so I said, I don't know, but I'm going to go ahead and do this. And every day, I forced myself to write something. There was a lot that went on that I didn't put in the diary because it's just too much.
Yeah.
So the highlights of the day, I did that.
So,
Go ahead.
really quick question. Did anybody ever see you writing this, and like, did they ever say anything about it?
No. I always did that when I had a moment to myself. And when I wasn't dodging mortars and rockets and
Yeah.
sniper fire or whatever.
So this was kind of a private.
Private, very private
Yeah,
to me.
private.
And I really, when I started writing it, I was kind of fighting within myself. Should I let people know what's going on, or should I just shut up and go on? So I decided I was going to go ahead and keep some of it. All of it, it wasn't there. But these were some of the pictures of the Battle of Suicut.
Oh, so you cut in
You never
January of
saw
'68?
these. Yeah. 1st January, Battle of Suicut.
fuck.
Fire Fort Base Burke.
Okay.
We were picking up bodies and pieces of bodies, putting them in a mass grave.
Oh, fuck.
And if you look there, you see some of them with their brains blown out.
Yeah, that's how the. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the only way you could stop them, because you see a lot of them are still bandaged, and they throw them back in the fight, even when they're wounded. And
Yeah.
so unless you shoot them in the head, most of the time they won't stop.
Shit. And that was. Was that VC or NVA? Because it looks like.
Probably VC.
It looks like VC because of
Yeah.
the random equipment.
Probably VC, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
jeez, yeah.
See that? one of my dogs got a hold of them one time.
Well, at least it's still here. And so you took these?
Yeah, I took those.
Okay.
68. See, those aren't, but these are all marked 1968.
Okay. Here, let me get
And,
through these. And okay, so I'm seeing the carnage and shit, but I'm also seeing the way the gear was worn.
Yeah.
And very, very interesting.
I was somebody asked me.
Ooh, God. Guys on the wire. They're picking them out of the wire.
Yeah, some of them stunk so bad, you just don't want to handle it. But you didn't want to handle any of them. But
What is this?
brains,
Oh, shit. There and there?
yeah, blown totally out of the head.
Oh, my God. Oh. Damn.
So that's the for real stuff right there.
Yeah,
And remember, I'm just a supply sergeant.
Well, we'll get into that in a second. Yeah, it's very rare that because these on the internet usually are not posted because they're too graphic or
Oh yeah,
you know. But
James only put one of them in the book.
it's bandaged. Yeah, you're right. He's bandaged.
That's what
They
I said.
threw
They
him-
bandaged
yeah.
him, you know.
And they threw him back. And that's a
Yeah,
yeah.
yep. That was a gut wound.
Jesus, is it okay if I show Chris these?
Sure.
Um,
Sure, Chris.
Pretty graphic, but
Be prepared. These are just some general pictures of the fire sport bases and the different things. That's just one of the villagers.
do you remember what kind of camera you had by chance?
I want to say a Petrie. 35 millimeter. But see, back then, it was very hard to get the pictures developed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but those, I think up at the top, some of them say March of '69 when you go through some of
Yeah,
them.
March of '68. Yep.
Yeah, March
Yep.
'68.
Yep.
Because by the time you got into the base camp, a lot of times even out of Dao Tiang, we couldn't get pictures developed. We had to send them down to Kuchi and
Okay.
come out of that PX, and then they had to send them off. So by the time you took the pictures and by the time they were developed, you know, it could be a month or 2 months.
Oh, so these that
Okay.
say March of '68.
Yeah, that was could have been, you know, February '68. It could have been March '68.
Yeah.
And
okay.
some of them we don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's
Was this that kid you were talking about in the book?
yeah, that's him. He's in the book. I think there's pictures in the book.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think. Yeah,
Look at his face.
he's
See?
done.
Hopeless.
He's a kid and he's
He
done.
doesn't. And I try to think about, you know, that's the same kid that could probably be shooting at me at night.
Right.
You know. And you just don't know. You just don't know. You want to help, you want to be good, but you just, after a while, you just don't trust anybody.
You get numb to it because you
You get
can't.
numb to it.
You have to survive.
That same kid right there on a berm in a position where you got Claymore mine set up will crawl up there and turn that mine around. Okay?
On you.
On you.
Yep.
And you don't know it till you fire it.
Yeah, and you won't see it either. You won't see it happening because he's small. And
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing that's funny, I don't know if y'all ever did this, you probably didn't. But when we'd eat sea rations, we'd take the Claymore mines, we'd pull the back off of them. We'd pull some C4 out,
Light it on fire.
light it on fire and heat our sea
Just don't
rations.
hit it with a hammer.
Yeah, no, you don't hit it with a hammer.
No, but yeah, it burns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it burns fine. And man, it
Yeah.
heats up those sea rations really quick.
Yep.
But the downside of that is you really had to be careful because when you go to blow that Claymore, it might just go poof. Because no ain't C4 left in it.
Or it may go poof on this side when they're over here. and it's
Oh,
like,
you know
yeah.
what I'm talking about? Take that
Yeah.
C4 out.
'Cause
And
it's that thin
heat
layer.
the sea ra-
The thin layer behind all the ball bearings. Yeah.
And so you got to be sure and leave enough in there for it to really blast.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you'd have to rotate your Claymore mines.
Oh. Oh, look at this stud.
Ain't he handsome?
Look at that stud wearing his flak jacket. Yeah.
Oh, the handsome dude.
Oh, that's the back of a C-130, correct?
No, back at Chinook.
Oh, shit hook, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. It doesn't have the. Yeah, that's it. Were yours leaking?
What?
Everything. Were they leaking hydraulic fluid?
Oh shit! Yeah, you didn't.
Well, yeah. If they're not leaking, they're not working, and you need to get out of there immediately. So that has not changed. Yeah, look at that guy. So you had the. I'm going to be a gear nerd for a bit. So you had the E1 right there, the M16 E1.
Yeah.
And the. Oh, that's the early, like the 3/4.
That truck?
No, I'm talking about the flak jacket. Is that a 52, like a Marine Corps one?
That's what it issued. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not that
just-
familiar with them.
Yeah, because this is in early 68, so
Yeah.
I don't know. It looks like
And
that.
and the truck we wore when we rode on top of the tracks, we sat on it.
On the
Flag
113s?
Yeah.
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
113,
for
we
sure.
sat on it. That's the mess sergeant that got killed the day after that picture was taken.
Really?
Yeah, that's the last pictures ever taken of him.
He looks happy.
He was hit with a sniper right out there in that perimeter. Even E7.
Yeah, and you took this picture? And do you remember the
Well,
exact date by
I can't
chance?
remember the
Or
exact
somewhere
date.
around approximately?
I
Yeah.
think I talked about it in my diary, but he was a pretty good guy.
Yeah. He also looks very upset and angry in that picture.
Well, you're always mad.
Yeah. Yep.
Because of all the places to be, this ain't one of them you want to be.
Yeah.
And there was an there was an adage, and I think I know I mentioned this
Mm-hmm.
in my book, with the first sergeant in A Company that I was the first assigned to with the 25th Division.
Yep.
He was an asshole. I mean, we fought first day I got there. I mean, he was just a miserable son of a bitch.
What was his problem with you?
He had a problem with everybody. It wasn't just me.
Right, but like, so
But he
what-
said,
yeah.
you think you're going to sit back here in this forward support base? You're crazy. I'm going to send your ass to the field. No, I'm going to the field anyway, you know. I'm in and out all the time, you know, in helicopters. And that last big go around we got into, you know, I finally said, what the fuck are you going to do? Send me to Vietnam? That was a stopgap. That's what everybody said. What are you going to do? Send me to Vietnam?
Yeah, I mean,
You know, and the conversation ended. I mean, it was over.
yeah. Like, what do you say to that? As in his shoes, like it being
You know,
the
he
prick.
didn't say nothing.
Right,
You know,
you
He
can't.
didn't say-
There's nothing
Exactly.
to come back with, and
Exactly.
that's an awesome stop sign to that
It
bullshit.
is, it really is, and it really helped de-escalate a lot of situations.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. What do? You're here. Let's deal with it. You know.
Well, I suppose like the Germans on the Eastern Front, World War II, probably said the same shit. What do you do? Send me to the Eastern Front?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you gonna do? Yeah, try it.
All's
You know?
quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah. Oh, so this is
I think that was at the airfield from Dao Tiang.
yeah. They would. It looks like they hit
It's a
airplanes.
C-123.
Yep, and they got hit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
all
they did. More
When
than
I was
that.
where I was at is we were right across the road from Baghdad International Airport, or probably about 3/4 of a mile, whatever, as the crow flies. But they would hit those Air Force guys and those planes every fucking day, and I felt I felt really bad for them because I'm like shit because they would go over us. That's the thing is we
yeah.
could hear them and then we'd be like oh no, and we could hear the impacts and shit like that. And it's like oh they're trying to hit the planes in the tarmac.
Well, the airfield was about a click from where I was on the base, on the
Mm-hmm.
Forward Sport base there. And those 123s, I don't know if you've ever ridden in one.
No, I C-130, but yeah.
They're the piston engine ones. You know, they're not the turboprops in
Oh, so they're
C-130s.
loud.
Oh, and shake. And they would sit on the end of that runway and rev those engines up, you know, and the whole goddamn thing, and you see bolts falling out of it, you know, and you say, oh,
Yeah.
God almighty. And here you go down the runway, toward the trees. And about the time you get to the trees, straight up, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, man, I don't want to do this anymore.
Weird.
I did it a lot of times, I'll tell you.
That's Jesus.
C-130 was even more of a shocker, as big as it was.
Mhm.
You know, the way it wind those props up, you know, turbo engine.
Yep.
turbo,
Yep.
And then they put the pitch to those props, and they'd take off down that runway, and they'd feel,
Yep.
you know, like they're trying to jump into the air.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
trying
yeah,
to
yeah.
jump, and then all of a sudden they'd get a little and they'd go up. And I mean, they go. I don't see how they pull the angle that they did.
Not
going
me
up.
either. They did that the same thing when I was there. Like we flew into Iraq and out of Iraq on a C-130.
Yeah.
And it was, we did the, yeah, it's like, I'm like, is this thing gonna get airborne? You're sitting there and the props are, they shake your head and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And all the guys that have been on one before, they've got earplugs or whatever in, and they're like, all right, we're sitting on like nets, the troop
Oh,
nets,
yeah.
the red
Troop
ones.
nets, yeah.
And you're sitting there with that bar on your leg and shit, and you're like, and I was a new guy, never been to play before, and I'm like, okay, why are all these guys bracing and they're like, just whatever. And then yeah, like you said, it's the. I'm like, oh wow, this is really shaky. Ow, my ears. It's like when you have one window down in your car and you're going down 75 miles,
yeah.
and it's like that helicopter kind of like shit, and then they just go, and then you're like, oh, this thing's not moving. And then all of a sudden, you're like, you feel the bounce? Yeah, exactly the same thing.
Feel the same bounce.
And then did you guys do the combat landings where it was like,
Oh,
you're at
shit.
30-something thousand feet, and then it's like, all right, we're at 6,000 now. We're good to go.
Oh yeah. And when they taken off was bad, but when they landed, my pucker factor really got up there, because they would come in like this, and they're right here, and then
Exactly.
let me off of this thing, man.
That's exactly like okay. So they did the same shit because, again, all the guys that have been there before, like our E5s, E6s, and whatever, when they said, "All right, we're going to be getting ready for," they were telling the crew to get ready for landing. They all just went like this,
Yep.
and I was like, "What are you guys doing?"
Just wait for it.
And they're like, just relax. It'll be okay. And then all of a sudden we did the first, and then the second one. And I'm like, there's like two portholes, right? So you can't see out of it to make yourself,
You didn't have the ramp down? See out of the back?
well, no, we went from up here to down there. No, the ramp came down.
I never flew at 30,000 feet on the C-130. It was more like 300 feet, I think.
Really?
Oh, it was. Oh yeah, less than 10,000. And the only time I really ever rode on C-130s is when I caught one down to Coochie one time, and then one down to Saigon one time and back.
They flew that low though?
Oh, they flew 300 or 400 feet a lot of time. But the thing that always amazed me was the skill of those pilots.
Yes.
They knew what the hell they were doing, because they'd been doing it a while. And all that.
Yeah.
After a while, on C-123, you know what a caribou is?
I've heard of it. Refresh me.
It looks like a 123 with two engines, but it's smaller. I don't know if I've got a picture of one somewhere.
Let me.
I don't know if they're in there, but
Scorpion
anyway,
fights, yeah.
that's a 12-inch 5-pan. So that's taken out the bottom of the Chinook.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, all of those. I think that's when we were sling loading the thing below the weapons that day.
Oh, the A1s?
Yeah, I think that's the one time it went down.
Yeah, well,
but those,
I'm gonna set these here, then we can talk about
yeah,
that.
those,
We can come back to that.
those
yeah.
C-130s were, I mean, they're still in use today. I
I know, and that's the thing is,
Puff come around, man. That's the old
yeah,
DC-3s that they converted.
yep,
And,
Puff the Magic Dragon.
Well, they were, yeah. They came around on 4th of July that night and up at Suicut.
Mhm.
I mean, fearsome things. Fearsome. Put a bullet in every foot.
Yep.
Everything.
There's no
And you
surviving
say,
that.
and
Yeah.
that's the one thing I always shook my head at, it's still at today. And I comment about this. We had the most powerful military in the world.
Mhm.
Logistics support and everything like
Yep.
this. And the guys beating a path on bicycles coming down from the north were beating us, getting supplied a lot of times.
Yeah.
And you just say, how in the world do they do it? And, when they had the old, back then, you gauged your success by body count. How many did you kill
Right.
today? It wasn't what territory you took, because you might take this today, and tomorrow you're going to give it back up and have to retake it.
Right.
You know, so it was body count, body count, body count, body count, and I don't see how they kept replenishing bodies. I mean, we killed them by the thousands. You know, I mean, not necessarily in one battle, but over
Yeah,
you know, a period of
attrition,
time.
yes.
Yeah,
Right.
and you would think they'd run out of people, but they keep coming, and they keep coming. And we don't know where they came from. So, after a while, they abandoned that body count, and they did something else after I left. But body count was the big thing back then. How many you kill?
What I've researched on that is in Vietnam, because they tried to do it in Iraq and Afghanistan, it didn't work as well because there's so many more eyes on nowadays.
Yeah.
But what I researched is the body count thing. A lot of that got skewed by people just making numbers up so they could just get out of the fight. And then, so how do you measure success?
Really?
You know, without taking territory. Because again, like you said, you take this hill this day,
Yeah.
and then you just you literally walk off the hill and go, all right.
And they're coming up the backside.
Right. So it's like, what the hell?
It's
Like,
not funny, Don.
well, no, but it's stupidly funny because
It's just-
okay, well then what the hell?
It's
And then
ignorance.
it's a morale thing for you guys because it's like, well, what the fuck was that for? We lost all these guys, lost all this equipment. We went through this. We're tired. We're beaten up. We've gone through hell, and for what?
Yeah.
But on a small scale, and then you start seeing that on a larger scale in Vietnam, like after you left, you know, later on, like the troops, a lot of them were just like, yeah, fuck it, I'm not going out there. You know, and
Yep.
it's really interesting to research, you know, because again, I obviously wasn't in Vietnam. I'm way too young for that. But when I research it and I get accounts of people who were there, it's a lot of the same stupidity that still exists. And I don't understand how and why that was not really addressed
That's
in the
why
40 years.
I talked about that in my book.
Yep.
Did they learn nothing? Did they learn nothing in Vietnam? You know, and not the world doesn't necessarily want democracy crammed down their throat.
Right.
The Middle East, yeah, you know this probably better than I do, but those people have lived like that for centuries with the Quran and everything like that. They don't want some kind of new shit coming over there and being crammed down their throat. You want democracy. This is the way they live.
Right.
You know, and you're not going to change it. You're not going to change it.
You're not. No matter how hard,
Nope.
how many people die fighting for that cause per se, and that's the same. I think in Vietnam it was a bunch of people, and then I want to get your take on this. Definitely, from what I've observed and researched, it was a bunch of people who had been living the same way for centuries, millennia perhaps, that were influenced. Some of them were influenced by a new fandangled kind of, I guess, government or, you know, being, you know, with communism, right? Big communism. And then this other newfangled idea said, well, we don't want that newfangled idea to spread, so we're going to go over there. And meanwhile, all these people who are in the middle who don't give a shit and they want to just live are caught up in this shit. And they're almost, a lot of them are forced to choose a side. And then when one side starts committing atrocities, well, you know, then they get pissed off and they're like, okay, I'll join your side. And it's a snowball effect of just an absolute catastrophe. And why?
I can address that firsthand because I've written about this, and I can tell you for a fact that farmer out in that rice paddy with that oxen sticking that rice in the thing don't give a holy crap about anything else except what he can put in his mouth and eat. All these other people have these grandiose ideas. It's like I was just saying about the Middle East, you know. You're not going to change this way of life.
Right.
They still live like this today.
Right.
They have, Vietnam is, I don't recognize it. I've often been asked if I'd like to go back, and no, but hell no. I don't want to go back for anything. I know it's a better country and all this other stuff,
Yep.
but supposedly it's under a communist regime. But tell me how they got all these nice cities and all these nice buildings and all this other stuff. Was it not the almighty dollar? And according to communism, everybody gets equal treatment. Not the way it is in Vietnam right now, I promise you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the same thing, and I will wholeheartedly agree. But the average Vietnamese peasant that's working out there doesn't care. Just leave me alone, you know? So I can verify and vouch for that firsthand.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sorry.
you go ahead.
Another thing while I'm thinking about it, you're talking about the local villages and everything. It's who they feared the most
Mm-hmm.
is who they were going to side with. And it was always with the Viet Cong,
Mm-hmm.
because the Viet Cong lived amongst them. And we would come in and help, and we'd give medical, and food and everything like that. But when that sun went down, the VC ruled. And if you got caught helping the Americans, you weren't necessarily killed, but somebody in your family was killed. Okay?
Yeah.
Your houses was burned down, or whatever. But they feared the communists and the VC in particular, one hell of a lot more than they ever feared the Americans. So that's where their allegiance lied. And can you blame them?
No, I
Can you
can't.
blame them? I mean, if somebody was to come in here right now, the local
Just
people,
gonna
and
say
say,
that, yep.
you got a choice. I'm either going to kill your wife and then I'm going to rape her before I kill her. Right
in front of you. Yeah, yeah.
Okay? Are you going to be with the Americans over here? What are you going to do? Yeah, well, okay, how much rice you want? Do you want a pig? Here.
Right.
I'm on your side.
Right.
And they were.
And that's the thing is, it's...
I'm sorry.
No, please.
I
keep
chatter
going.
too much, but
No, you have not.
it
Please
just
keep going.
goes into the thing of this infuriating pacification program shit that they started. And I've always said
Yeah.
in theory it's a good, noble idea, but it don't work. You're dealing with human beings, it don't work.
Correct.
Okay? Because you cannot treat all of them equally all the time. Now, if you could go in and automatically pull their standard of living up for the entire villages of the country, where everybody could see improvements of everything, I think it would be a wonderful thing. But they don't see that. They hardly ever see it.
yeah.
They just see
Yeah.
the shit and the poverty and the misery and the crap they're living
Brutality and, yeah.
in. And, if it's, I understood where they were coming from
While you were there or ex post facto?
while I was there.
Yeah, and that's a tough
While
pill
I
to
was
swallow.
there. And
That's a tough pill to swallow.
we had a little kid, I mentioned him in the book,
Mhm.
that his whole family was killed in front of him. And we kind of took him in. He ran around the compound all the time, and we took care of him. And he was still on the compound when I left. But it's just like the kid that was shot on that firefight that we had. That was the first time I'd ever really seen an indigenous person injured, and especially a
Yeah.
child like that,
Mhm.
to that extent. Where what did it solve? They shot at us, we shot at them. We survived, and he could have just as easily taken that bullet in the head as he did through the arm.
Mhm.
And my thoughts of sympathy ran, like hot blood for this family because of this. But at the same time, on this side of my brain, this is the same kid that could kill me tonight.
Right.
So where do my sympathies lie? Okay, I've sympathized for him, but I might have to fight him tonight.
And it's about survival.
It's about survival.
When it boils
And
down
when
to it, yeah.
and so we loaded him up and took him up to A&M, got her patched up and everything, but that's the kind of fight that I've been going through my entire life about what was right, what should I have done, and was I the one that actually shot the kid? I don't know, you know, but I feel terrible against it, you know. But these are the things that go through my mind after all these years.
Just the constant questioning.
Just the constant questioning of, number one, why in the hell would people fight wars to begin with?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because some money grabbing some bitch wants power or something over here, and he starts all this shit.
Mm-hmm.
But the average person in the world doesn't want a war. They don't want to fight. They want to enjoy our life like what we have, or what they have at the time, without worrying about, getting killed or maimed or something like
Having
that.
to choose.
That's all people want, and there are so many things about that war that go through my head, and there's never a peaceful day for me. Never. And it's a wonder I haven't committed suicide. It really is. There's been times that I just think this is overwhelming. I can't do this.
Yeah.
But I bring myself back from that. But it's just been so close, it's frightened me.
Yeah.
And a lot of men went ahead and that's, I also commented about that too. And this is what brings men to the, there's been more suicides out of the Vietnam War than there ever have been anything. And with justification.
And it continues.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem to be a solution to it.
The inhumanity of what I saw is staggering. You can't begin to believe that people can be that vile and that cruel and that animalistic. But you're thrust into situations, again, it's getting back to survival, the instinct for survival.
Yep.
Okay, so you have to fight for, basically your life. And if you don't, then you're dead. And
that's that.
Well, it reminds me of another thing that I recall this very vividly. That one day we were about to go out on a convoy escort up to Tay Ninh out of Da Tiang, and I was coming out of the front of my tent, and the convoy was sitting there ready to go. And this kid came up to me and said, "Sergeant," he said, "I don't have any of," I think it was ammo pouches. I think that's what he was asking
On
for.
the belt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he just said he didn't have any. Because realistically, if he used ammo pouches, that was good. But a lot of people stuck the shit in their pockets.
Or pockets.
We had jungle, we had big pockets, and that's where I carried a lot of ammo. But anyway, he was there, and he just pissed me off so bad coming up because in my mind I was thinking, why didn't you come up 30 minutes ago?
Right. Yeah.
Because I've got shit I got to get on this track. I've got to go in and do this stuff. And he was here to that microphone to me, and I was reaming him out. I mean, then all of a sudden it was oblivion. And I was out. I didn't know what had happened. What had happened was that 122 millimeter rocket had come in behind him and landed about 20 feet behind him. And a huge piece of that came through his back, emptied his chest onto me, and blew us both down. And it knocked me out. When the medics got over there, they pulled him off of me. And they thought I was dead too because I had most of his shit on me. And I was awake, but I wasn't cognizant of everything. And then after all was said and done, after they got him off of me and got me over to the dispensary and checked me out over the tent over there, shipped him off to Greyfriars Station. I came back to my senses and they told me what had happened. So, okay, I was okay. I wasn't hurt, except I heard something go by my ear and I didn't know what it was. It was just that quick. But I was out then, so I didn't realize what had happened. But when they told me what had happened, that this rocket had landed and came through and it put holes in my supply tent like you wouldn't believe. But anyway, that's an aside story. When I was able to get back over to the front of my supply tent, I always thought this was so dehumanizing, for lack of a better term. There's a big pool of blood in the sand there in front of my supply tent. And the only thing you could do was kick dirt over it and go on.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a man's life laying there in that pool of blood. None of my blood, it was his.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that hit me right between the eyes. How fragile life is and how quickly it can be over.
So that was one of the points where it kind of just...
That pool of blood, man, that got my attention, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I'd been up at Civic Cut. I'd seen a lot of blood and everything, but that to me was, he was so innocent.
Mm-hmm.
He was so innocent. And the last words he heard was from me cussing him out for being late to do something. And that sticks in my mind too.
I mean,
So
in that situation, do you think if,
I don't,
like, I mean, so
that's tough. I'm okay. Thank you. I'll probably
so it's
do that a few times.
No, I've got plenty. I got a whole box.
Okay.
But I mean, as far as so in that situation, you blame yourself for yelling at him. Because that's how it ended. But did you know? I mean, there's no way that you or him
Nobody
knew.
could have known.
But nobody could have known. But it still fucks with you because it's like that's the last thing that you know that he heard. Because you and him were, and that's absolutely insane.
It is. And then, I guess what added insult to injury, I was the one responsible for going and getting all of his belongings and having to go through them and make sure everything's okay and having to ship them home. Mm-hmm. And that just, you do that time and time again. In that particular case, it was really bad for me. It was really bad.
That's understandable because it's,
And remember, I'm just a supply sergeant.
Right. Yeah.
That's where the book came from. I'm not a grunt. I wasn't a hero. I wasn't out on the front lines, chasing Charlie through the jungle. Okay.
Well, kind of.
But I was in my more things happened to me because of happenstance, I think. It certainly wasn't planned.
Kind of the wrong place, wrong time kind of thing.
Yeah, and 4th of July was a whole different ball game. But
well, really quick.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the 65 time that you were with that unit, right?
Yeah.
Let's because a lot of people might not know if they didn't read your book. Like you did 2 tours in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And the first one was in 65 to 66, and then you went back into so because that actually interests me, and we'll get into that why it interests me a lot.
Yeah.
After we could talk about this, and so okay, you joined in 63. You're using an M1 rifle in basic. You're that old, like Jesus Christ. But so
I had one of them blow up on me. Basic training.
Yeah, because it was probably used and abused so much the headspace. Yeah, it's probably weird. So okay, I don't know if you covered it in the book. If you did, I'm sorry, but like, did you get to choose your MOS?
No, I actually joined the Army RA, and this is a whole another story too. I joined the regular Army. I didn't care what I did, okay? I just wanted to go to Europe. I wanted to go to Germany. And I put that in my, in the contract. I wanted to go to Germany.
Yep.
Okay? And to this day, I haven't seen Germany. I've seen Korea and 2 tours in Vietnam, but not Germany.
Well, that's fun.
Oh, man, I took basic training in AIT, Fort Polk, Louisiana.
That sucks.
July and August. And
Yeah,
if I hadn't have been a young kid, I don't know how I survived it.
My other buddy said it was called Little Vietnam during Vietnam because it was so
Well, you
humid
had
and hot.
North Polk was what they call Tigerland.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And that's where you did that. But I also took I was trained as an armorer.
Okay. Yeah.
So I learned to fix weapons.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, is what I did. So I could fix anything from 45 to a howitzer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that is in the logistics MOS category. So I had a 76Y, okay, a 10 at that time. And as you go up, you know, your MOS changes to your grade levels, you know, like you get to a 30 or 86, you know, on that. But when I was there at Fort Polk, when they had the run, dodge, and jump, I don't know if they even have that anymore. But it was some sawhorses set up, and you had a trench, a deep trench that was about 10 feet wide.
Mm-hmm.
And at least it seemed to me like 25 feet wide, but it was so big.
Yeah.
But anyway, you had to take off running, and you had to go in out these sawhorses and then jump over this ditch and then run the sawhorses again, turn around and come back. Okay? And that was part of your PT test.
Oh, shit.
You did that, and you had to do it in a certain amount of time and everything. And the last time I did it in Fort Polk, when I jumped the ditch, I landed just shy of it on this ankle, and it turned and broke that ankle.
Oh.
And I was in my last week of training there.
What did they do?
Well, they put a cast on it and finished my training and awaited orders. And the guy from the ordering room came down and said, "Hey, Stout, you got your orders?" And I said, "Oh, thank God," because I hated Fort Polk. Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, I hated Fort Polk.
I've heard that from a lot of
And
people.
I was ready to go. You know, so this is wonderful. So broken foot and all, I'm happy I'll go. So you get it. You know, normally you get like a 30-day leave before you go
To your unit?
overseas
Yeah,
to your unit, you know, or something.
Yep.
So anyway, I think I had 2 weeks at that time, so I could go home. You know, and wherever home was at that time. But anyway, he came out and he said, "Here's your order, Stout," and I got to read him and said, "Stout, Donald M., private. Korea?" I said, wait a minute, hey, come back here.
Germany.
Hey, somebody made a mistake. Look, see, entrance contract, RA, unassigned, Germany. Oh,
Unassigned.
yeah, well, that means MOS.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was getting my MOS. So he said, "Oh, okay. We'll go see if we can get them, you know, your orders changed." And I said, "Okay. How long is this going to take?" Well, he said, "Oh, it'll take 3 to 6 months."
Oh, fuck that.
And I said, "Fuck me, I'm going to Korea."
Yep.
So I said,
No.
off to Korea I went. You know?
3 to 6 months sucking in Fort Polk versus.
Oh man, I was so
Man, that
happy.
sucks.
And
That's,
one of the
yeah.
one of
No.
the funny things about now I'm a buck private, okay?
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah, yeah.
nobody.
Yep.
I'm a nobody.
Yep.
Get to Korea, I landed in what the hell's the name of that Air Force base? But anyway,
Kunsan?
yeah.
Busan?
I think it was Busan. But
Yeah, Busan, yeah, probably.
I got further orders up to a little ordnance company called 195th Ordnance, where they repaired weapons. Okay, and it was up in Uijeonbu, and Uijeonbu is spitting image. You can see North Korea, you know, from it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I got there, and I'm a private. I'm thinking, well, this is going to be living hard, you know. But I got there, and they have what they call compounds over there, not bases, they're compounds. and they have Quonset huts, which is a half-barrel looking thing that you lived in. And I had about 14, 16 guys in this one Quonset hut. And I thought, well, it's okay. It's not a tent. I can live with this.
Oh yeah.
So I go in there and everything is, and they had the oil burner space heaters in there.
The what?
The diesel
Oh
space heaters.
shit.
We pour diesel in and heat them. Yeah.
Any ventilation?
Huh? Well, vented to the top.
Okay, because they'll
To a
stink.
chimney.
Yeah.
But still, who gives a fuck about a private? Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
So
yeah.
anyway, I go in there and I said, it's pretty nice, And when you're in basic training, you got this whole line of toilets.
Oh yeah.
You sit there and if you take a crap, you're looking at 15 other faces and, no modesty. Well, this one had a nice independent stall, bathroom
Should
and
step up.
independent showers. And I thought, this is okay, And then the killer came about. Oh, this was the first killer. They said, okay, it's going to cost you $10 a month for the houseboy or house girl or whatever it was. Houseboy, I think it was. And I said, what? What's this for? I said, oh, well, he makes the bunks. He takes care of your laundry. He polishes your boots. He does all this. I said, wait a minute. I'm a private. Okay. Are you sure about this? Yeah, other privates and, E2s in there and that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we had a houseboy that took care of everything. If we had an inspection, he knew how to lay things out. Everything was always perfect all the time. Never had to turn a thumb.
You basically got the
finger.
cheat code for
And I was
being
a
in the
private.
military.
And I'm looking at 38th Ordnance Company. That's what it was.
38th Ordnance Company.
38th
Okay.
Ordnance Company in Weejamboo. Funny how that came to me.
It happens.
Okay.
Yep.
But anyway, I said, well, this is all better. So my duties there were to repair arms, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
And we did everything from 45s up to the howitzers. And at night, they said, okay, come on, let's go up to the club. And I didn't know what they were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, what? And they said, well, let's go to the club. And it's an EM club. It wasn't an NCO club. It wasn't an officers club. But the officers club I never saw. They had one. But I can imagine what it was if the EM club was this good. Because it had slot machines in it. It had dance floors in it. All the beer you could think of, you could drink. And they had 2 separate gates on the compounds. They had the front gate, which everybody came in and out of, and then in the back, they had another gate, which was called the Moose Gate. Okay? Now, the Moose Gate was a gate where all of the local Korean women got all decked out and came up here. And you could go out there and you could go up and down the line, do a little touchy-feely, and whatever woman you wanted to take into the club and party with, she went with you. Okay? And, for a nominal amount. But we called them mooses, I believe the term for girlfriend in Korean is musama.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So they thought it was a mispronunciation on our part, and we knew what the fuck we were calling them. Mooses,
Yep.
And I'm telling you what, I would never have believed that would have been that good at tour duty in Korea. Is a buck private, man.
So really quick question. So that we were talking a little bit earlier off this about the little briefing you had or the crash course you had about VD and stuff like that.
Yeah.
With the I mean, you want to explain that really quick, and then we can go into my question.
Well, when we were in basic training, all the men back then went through this, but they had videos about personal health care and what not to do, and don't get VD, and the films were really gross in that one of the films said, okay, if you get this kind of VD, and here's what they're going to do. And they showed it on the film where they had a man's penis, and they had this pencil-looking thing that had blades on the end of it. So they would stick it up the penis, and the blades would come out, and they would pull it out. And all the pus started coming out and everything. Oh, I'm never going to have sex in my life. after seeing that, you know. But it was really a gross film. It scared the hell out of me. Along with a lot of other people.
Jesus. Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny because I didn't have to go through and experience it, but you describing it is fucking hilarious because
it wasn't funny at the time.
I know it wasn't, right?
Funny at the time.
To me it is, but because it's way after the fact. But so then fast forward to Korea.
Yeah.
Did that extremely educational briefing
Taught you
have
to
any
use
impact?
protection.
Okay.
Taught you to use protection. You didn't want any of that. None of that, you know. And knock on wood, thank God, nothing ever happened.
Knock on wood. Interesting.
You never
euphemism.
heard that?
Oh, I was just
That's an old euphemism I've used for many, many years.
the pun went over his head.
Yeah. So,
Got it.
nothing,
Because we're talking about dicks.
Nothing.
Knock on wood.
nothing further bad will happen if you knock on wood. When you say something like that.
That's why I usually go.
Yeah, okay.
But anyway, no, I was making a really bad joke and I had to explain it, which is even worse.
Nate,
Nate, this is up to your discretion whether you keep that one in or not. I know you're going to keep it in because I look like a fucking idiot. So, yes.
Another instance that I recall very vividly was we were also in charge of training some Korean troops there.
Okay, yeah.
In the maintenance of weapons.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
And one day I was showing this Korean how to dismantle a 45 and how to repair it and look at the sear and, you know, all this other stuff. And and we got it all back together. And we had a pit there. We always test fired the weapons before we sent them back out to wherever they went. Except for the howitzers. We didn't test fire those.
Weird.
You know.
You're not a string puller.
So anyway, we got it all back together and went over and keep the ammo and magazines in a separate locked place. So unlocked it and I got a magazine out with the 45, you know, caliber rounds in it and put it in the weapon. And I said, okay, I want you to test fire this. So I handed it to him. And he looking me dead in the eyes. Put it in my chest. Pulled the trigger. Tried to pull the trigger. And it went snap. It went click. It didn't go off. Do I have holes in me? Am I dead? You know?
Yep.
I'm not, honestly,
Yeah,
I wasn't sure about what had just happened.
Right.
But what had happened is we didn't rack the slide and chamber around when I handed it to him. So about the time he realized what had happened, he started trying to rack it, and my NCO in charge there tackled him. And I mean, there was quite a scuffle there, and that was a live gun. We finally got it away from him, a live bullet. But you know, if he had thought to rack that slide, I'd be dead.
Mm-hmm.
And come to find out that he was a North Korean infiltrator who had infiltrated into the army, and he had just had enough of us Americans, I guess, and decided to kill one of us. And I was a lucky choice, but skated on that one.
Yeah,
I've had a lot of luck, man. I've had a lot of luck.
You definitely have. Do you want to take a piss break really quick?
Yeah.
All right, let's do that.